Welcome to FailCraft, the podcast where we dive into the messy, real side of success and explore how setbacks become the stepping stones to growth and clarity. I'm your host, Ezekiel, and today's guest is Amanda J. Scott. For 17 years, she lived in a prison that had no bars. She was in a marriage defined by financial and emotional abuse, a slow, quiet erosion of her self-worth. The scariest part wasn't the fighting, it was the normalization. She adapted to the toxicity until she barely recognized herself. With limited access to money and two teenage daughters to protect, she finally found the courage to escape. She is the author of Finding My Way Back to Me and is here to talk about the hidden trap of financial control, the danger of letting rage consume you, and how to rebuild a life from zero. So, Amanda, I am super excited to welcome you to FailCraft. Thank you very much for joining us.
Lovely. Thank you, Ezekiel. Thank you very much for having me on your show, and hello to all the listeners.
Great to have you here, and I'm eager to get things started. So let's dive in, Amanda. You spent 17 years in an abusive marriage. You wrote that the most dangerous part was how the abuse became normalized. So, is the human mind's ability to adapt actually a failure in this context? I mean, did you survive by convincing yourself that the unbearable was actually normal?
Yeah, well, you see, I lived in a marriage for 17 years of abuse. A long time of that. I didn't realize that I was being abused. Abuse takes many forms, and it's not always. It's often hidden, whether it's emotional, physical, financial, or sexual abuse. It creates shame in the abused that keeps them stuck. You see, nobody wants to feel unloved and uncared for. And so we make excuses for our partner's behavior rather than accept the truth that we're being abused. So that's why I decided to share my story to help shine more light on this issue, as my greatest hope is that people can find awareness from my story and support going through this situation. You see, in my case, abuse grew slowly. And what started out as one incident of disrespect became 2 and 3, until eventually it became the way I lived. I was told I was stupid, so it didn't take long for me to believe that. And that meant each time I was treated badly, it became my fault, because I thought if I was better, things would be better. And what happens is the emotional abuse often enables the financial abuse. Why? Because I was too scared to question my husband's decision, because really all I wanted was peace and the constant tension in the house to be relieved. So I did what I was told. And that's how it sort of happens, slowly.
Right, Amanda.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, and I think, the first step that a woman can take is by admitting and acknowledging that she is in an abusive relationship. I mean, it might sound easy for somebody living on the outside of it, but when you're actually living in it, it is one of the hardest truths to face. Because we make those excuses, we tell ourselves it's not that bad, especially if there's no broken bones or bruises to prove the pain. But you see, as I said, abuse wears many masks, and it's not always loud or violent. Sometimes it's the quiet, the control, the constant walking on eggshells, the manipulation that is just sometimes the hardest to name and heal.
Okay, all right. So, Amanda, we often talk about physical abuse, but financial abuse, on the other hand, is silent. and might elude you that you're actually being abused. Initially, like you said at the start of the show, you said you weren't really aware at the start that you were being abused. So tell us, how does a partner use money as a weapon to make you feel like you are incapable of surviving on your own?
Well, they want to be able to, they want full control. You see, the situation I was in had nothing to do with what I did or what I didn't do. It was simply because my husband was a deeply insecure man and needed absolute control. And because of my lack of self-worth, I chose to accept it rather than question it. So once this slow disrespect comes in and it happens, then it starts with the small things that aren't small over time. And I was always left in a position where I had to ask for money. And the way it made me feel, having to ask for money, like I was a burden, like I didn't deserve to have financial independence. And it chipped away at my self-worth. So asking for money never came natural to me. I felt ashamed. So, deep down, it was like I was incapable. So I was shrinking. So I think what happens is they make you feel as though you don't deserve it. Yes, you're not worthy of it. And it had made me feel so bad. So what happened? I was too scared to ask for money or access the accounts without permission. So what I did, I sort of avoided it. I learned to avoid, not to touch, to live small. And so once you avoid it, it creates that overwhelm. It creates that feeling. So I think looking back, the real first step is to admit that this is not normal. It is not okay that nobody should have to beg for money as if they were in a partnership, as if they were a child, that nobody should have to ask for their basic needs. So this shift came and, it didn't happen straight away. It takes some time because healing doesn't happen all at once. It's not a single decision. It's a daily commitment. I'm still doing it. It's a daily commitment to choose yourself. But each time you choose yourself, when you speak up, because at first when I spoke up, my voice was trembling. But when you choose to speak up, when you choose to go for a walk, I chose to go to the park because I needed to get out of the chaos in my life. I needed space to breathe. And when you choose that instead of returning to the chaos, you spend some time self-care, then you are reclaiming pieces of yourself bit by bit. And that's what helps you through bit by bit. And I think one of the most important things is to maintain a friendship. It can be just one friend, to have that support for somebody who just you can talk to, who doesn't judge you, who just, because getting out of an abusive relationship, of a situation like that, takes time. It takes time. And it's all at your own time, at your own pace. And to have somebody there to talk to is critical. Instead of hearing, abusers' voice all the time, it's so important to have somebody else who's there, not to judge you, just to be with you, to just suggest some solutions So I think that's very important in that. But once the big thing is saying, enough is enough, is to admit it. And, you might not have all the answers. I didn't. And you might not know what the next step is, because I didn't know that. But by simply admitting that this is not right, it cracks open the door to freedom. And that is when you begin the journey back to you. That's when you begin, because there is support out there. There is support out there. There's people out there that have been through things like this, and we're all there to help you go through it. But it's once you say to yourself, no, this is not love and this is not life.
All right, Amanda, you warn against letting rage and hate change who you are. When you are being mistreated, isn't rage just a natural feel, or does holding on to it keep you in the cage longer?
Yes, I think the most important thing, and one of the most important things, is that maintain your dignity and respect as you go through this breakup process. Because my pepped up rage and humiliation when I found out things meant that if I had the chance, I'd turn from the abused into the abuser very quickly. And I found myself doing things I really didn't expect. After one or two major incidents, I realized that my desire for revenge was turning me into my husband, somebody that I didn't want to be. So I think the most important thing is to, when we're going through, we live in a world where we forget our values and we allow somebody else to define it for us. And it's getting back to those true colors inside you, those true values, and not forgetting that and not allowing other people to change how you feel. That's a big thing. So, it's really aligning yourself to what your values are. Honesty, trust, love, all those things. And every time I stayed quiet, I know that I ignored my own instincts, and it chipped away at my self-worth. That's what it does. So when you start to live your own values, it's a bit weird at first, because it feels uncomfortable, because you've been so used to being quiet or, living in fear. It sometimes, you might, if you think, no, I'm not going to put up with disrespect anymore, then it might start to disappoint other people around you because they've been so used to treating you with disrespect. So it's really important to focus on you, focus on what's true to you. And even though, when you speak up at first, and I said before, you might be trembling, you are honoring your own voice. And I think that's one of the most important things to do, to honor your own voice, because you're changing. You're now believing in yourself, because self-belief is everything. It's the start of everything to changing your world. The easiest thing to do is to blame other people. But it's not until we believe that we deserve more and we will not put up with abuse any longer that things can start to change.
All right, Amanda. So, you are living with no money and two teenagers. Sounds impossible. So, what was the specific moment that broke the camel's back? The moment you decided that the unknown was better than the known?
I think one of the reasons why I left the marriage was I needed to show my children that this was not love. Love is not abuse. Love is without abuse. And that was my primary motivation for leaving, because it was to show my children that the importance of self-respect. And I think I had been disrespected a lot and told I was stupid, that I think I found out that he was having an affair as well. And I just said, no, enough is enough. I cannot live like this any longer. And I think when I said, once you make that decision, it's amazing what happens to you. It's as though people come to you to help you through it. You've made a decision, and that is it. That's all you need to do, is to make that decision. And the people around you, there are people. There's support groups. There's women's shelters. There's an array of healers, of counselors, of people there to support you through this. And it's just that making that decision for some is the hardest thing of all. And I just thought, well, staying there was worse than leaving, that I had to move. I had to move, and I had to do it for my kids as well. This is not the way to live. Yeah. And I think that's the main thing. And also to self-care, to look after yourself. That's the most important. And sometimes, and that's a lifeline. We've been told, no, We've been told that it might be foreign. It's the last thing you do is look after yourself. Then you're not being loving and loyal. But no, that is not truth. Self-care is vital. It is a lifeline, and it is a thread that keeps you connected to yourself when things are unraveling. And that is important, to remove yourself a little bit by bit from that environment and to go somewhere where it's quiet and peaceful. Because it is about what is a healthy relationship. Saying to yourself, a healthy relationship is a place of respect, of love, of protection. But when you've got abuse, it strips away at those foundations and leaves you living in survival. So it's really important to know that there is healthy love out there. There's healthy relationships out there, but that healthy relationship all starts with you having that healthy relationship with yourself. So you're not allowing yourself to live in chaos, in disrespect, in a place that's fear, and to have peace.
Right. Yeah, Amanda, amazing. That was a really great response there. I hope it sincerely helps someone listening in our audience. So for the listener who is currently in a relationship where you have to beg for money or walk on eggshells, so what's the first quiet step they can take to regain some power?
I think, look, the truth is you don't need anybody else's permission to call it abuse. If it feels wrong, if you feel small, trapped, silenced, or constantly questioning your worth, that is enough. You don't have to wait for it to get worse. Your feelings are valid and your pain is real. And it's once you make that decision, that is the door that opens everything to you, That's a different life, and it's about making that decision that you deserve a different life. And that's finding that part of you that still has dreams for a good life and wants to leave more than you want to stay. Nothing about moving beyond an abusive relationship is easy, but every time you think about it, it's just keep on going because, there is a better life and it comes to you. And there are people out there that will support you because the only happiness that is important is your own happiness in life. And I'm here, there's other people here to help you to go through this. And if you need to connect with me, I'm happy. My website is amandajscott.com, and you can email me and I'm happy to answer any questions to help you along this path. And there are a lot of other people who are like me that want to do the same thing too.
All right, Amanda. So lastly, for the listeners in our audience who need to read your book, Finding My Way Back to Me, or seek your guidance, or maybe just connect with you online, so where is the best place for them to go?
It's amandajscott.com, and there's a lot of information on there, and there's updates, blog updates, and you'll find the book, Finding My Way Back to Me. Now, this is it's a very quick read, and it's a powerful reminder that we all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And if they need to ask me any questions, that's where they can have that link on the email. And I'm there. Or if you know somebody who's going through something like this and want to reach out and help or some advice, I am here to help you.
Great one, Amanda. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. It's been a great time having a conversation with you here today. Indeed, a necessary conversation. And thank you very much for taking the time to join us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.